TSJ 101 Sports presents Center Ice Chats with your host, Elias Pettersson.
Jordan Binnington, he's got a hot start. Colin, what do you think about that?
He's been very consistent and very confident in his role as I guess, a pseudo-starter for the Blues now that he's on a hot streak.
Yeah. I guess interim starter?
Yeah, you could say that.
But, I mean, Allen played a really good game against Washington the night before. I don't know. I'd be fine with going back to a 1-2 duo, like we had kind of with Carter Hutton towards the end of the year last year before he got hurt.
Yeah, I think that's brought success to the Blues really over the past decade or so. You had Halak and Elliott, and then Elliott and Allen.
Yeah, then you had Allen and Hutton last year, which that kind of, Allen had a little spill there.
Yeah.
But to start the season, we had Allen and Hutton, which we talked about it last week. Or Johnson, rather, I'm sorry. We talked about it last week, and I kind of wanted to see how Allen did with a backup behind him and not like a 1A, 1B starter role. And we've seen that it did not turn out so well, but I don't know if we can contribute that to Johnson or Allen or both of them. Maybe it was just the team play in front of them, which they are part of the team, like you said last week. But Binnington has come up, and I figured he'd just be the backup like Johnson was. But no, he's actually getting playing time, and the Blues are running with him, and that's what I like to see. And if we take a look over the last week's games, we can see that. He came up against Philadelphia. We won 3-0. Allen played against Dallas on the 8th. We lost 3-1. Then we talked last episode that was posted this week, but we recorded last week about the starters against Montreal and Dallas. And Binnington was both of them. He started in both games and won both of them, 4-1 against Montreal and 3-1 against Dallas. And then Allen came in and shut down the Washington Capitals, which is probably one of the best starts he's had in this entire year, I would say, shutting down the huge shot of Ovechkin. Obviously, Ovechkin got the one goal, but he did really well. And then last night we got the overtime loss to the New York Islanders, but that was Binnington starting. So we still got a point out of it. What do you think about the last week's games, Colin?
Well, I think Allen's game against the Capitals was really impressive because
it's what he needed in my eyes.
Yeah, even letting Ovechkin get one goal in, that's still impressive. I probably couldn't stop any Ovechkin shots.
Yeah, no, I definitely would not have been able to stop anything shot at me.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Even though he hasn't been starting, I think that game was really good for his confidence. He keeps them to one goal, and I think the reason we saw Binnington start was that it was a back-to-back, and Allen would have had a shot at starting if those games weren't consecutive.
Yeah, and some people wanted to see Allen run with it. Some people were upset that Allen got the first start. I mean, he hasn't been playing well, but you need to have your starting goalie playing against a team like Washington to help him get his confidence back. And if you can't win that game, then obviously you just run with Binnington. But now that Allen has done pretty well, our next game is Thursday. I'm surprised to see Binnington start that one, even though Binnington's been hot. But after Allen's game against Washington, I think he'd get the start against Boston.
Yeah, you've got the Bruins Thursday and the Senators Saturday, so I could see a split between Allen and Binnington those games as well.
I also could. And the team's playing well with the split, even though last night was a decent game, wasn't the best game we've played. I think I would like to see him start splitting, and then the first one maybe to lose 2 in a row. Then we switch to the other guy for a little bit until he loses his hot hand.
Yeah, I think you need to stick with the hot goalie.
I agree.
At this point.
I agree 100%. Especially coming down the stretch, which we'll get to that in a minute. So our only players injured right now that it shows on CBS Sports are Zach Sanford and Carl Gunnarsson. Sanford actually left last night's game after getting hit hard into the boards. And Ray Barilli jumped on the ice early to help him out. But there was no whistle. It could have been a boarding call. And, I mean, I definitely think it should have been. But against Montreal last week, Robert Thomas, got... I don't know if he got hit hard. I didn't get a chance to see it as at work. But he went awkwardly into the boards, and when he came off was not holding his stick, wasn't holding anything in his left shoulder, and was not even He just had it there like it was just there. He wasn't even using it. So I'm afraid that might be a shoulder injury. All it says is upper body, and he's on IR along with Tyler Bozak. Do you have anything about that injury?
Well, I'd hate to see it be a shoulder injury because isn't that what Tarasenko had?
It is what Tarasenko had, and it was snake bit.
Yeah, and it seems like he's finally coming out of that slump. And Thomas seemed like he was really finding his game over the last 10 games or so, and he was adding more consistency, and I hate to see him go down with an injury at this point in the season because I really think that he was coming into his own.
Yeah, me too. Trying to find the injury for sure. Yeah, it just says exits. It doesn't say. It's an upper body injury. He crashed into the boards, and he has not returned since.
Has the team given any timeline on that?
I think my brother was telling me the other night that it might be 2 weeks. Well, when he'll be reevaluated.
Oh, I think I saw that too.
I'm not for sure, though, so don't quote me on that. But about the NHL injuries, wouldn't you like to see the actual injury rather than upper body, lower body concussion?
Yeah, I think it's kind of weird that teams are so secretive about what the injuries are. I guess I can see that from you don't want your opponents targeting that player's weak area.
Yeah.
But
obviously it is a contact sport, but in baseball it's not much of a contact sport, but they say it's broken arm, broken finger, pulled muscle. I know they say that in the NHL, but you don't really get the injury talked about unless it's like the GM coming out in a press conference and saying, like I remember with Fabry, even though it was obviously his lower body, Doug Armstrong came out and they had a press conference and said it was a torn ACL.
Yeah, I think it's usually when surgery is required that they come out and say what the specific injury is.
Yeah, and I know last season, or no, not last season, 2 seasons ago, when Ottawa was on the run to the Western Conference Final, I know their owner or GM came out and said that, or no, it was their coach after the first round, I think, after they won the first round, was talking about Erik Karlsson's wrist. And everyone in hockey media was like, wow, I cannot believe that he said what his injury was. Now they're going to go in hard into the boards, and an opposing player might give him a whack on the wrist, which I guess that's, like you said, why they don't talk about it. But, I mean, as a fan perspective, and when they bring in the gambling into it, I think they're going to start that in 2020 or something. They're talking about it. Then I think then we might start seeing the actual injury instead of just upper body, lower body. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought about the gambling altering, how that's addressed. I hadn't considered that.
Yeah, I haven't either. Over the last week, we have seen David Perron's point streak extend to 12 games. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that there's a correlation between Perron's 12-game point streak and the Ducks' 12-game loss streak. Former Duck David Perron's doing some sort of voodoo.
Yeah. It's crazy how you just brought that up, and I just started thinking about it, that in those 12 games, Perron's got a point. Anaheim has not won in those 12 games. Yeah. Edmonton, the other team that he played for, is also not doing too hot in their last 11. We'll get to that in a little bit. Perron's play is elevated since he's been put on the line with Ryan O'Reilly and Zach Sanford, which might change up because Sanford left last night's game with looked like, I guess we can only say upper body, but he went into the boards hard and looked like he had no idea where he was. So I'm going to assume concussion, and I don't like assuming, but we'll just say upper body for now.
Yeah, I can see how being on a line with Ryan O'Reilly would get a guy excited about playing, really find his game again, because O'Reilly has been the one consistent factor throughout this season. And I was looking at O'Reilly's a point-per-game player now.
That's awesome. That's good.
And in the last 22 games, Perron's a point-per-game player.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So you want to hear something crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Since the second half of the season began on January 10th, the Blues are 3-0-1. So
nice. Yeah. Undefeated in the second half. Or at least haven't gone pointless.
Yeah, and in our last 6, we're 4-1-1. So I guess Jordan Binnington might be the reason the Blues have turned this season around, and now they're only 4 points out of a playoff spot. Imagine that.
Yeah. Not going after Jack Hughes anymore like we thought last week.
Yeah, it's crazy. The episode 1 was actually recorded last Wednesday, and it got posted up this Monday. So last week, the Blues were bottom 3 in the league easily. And I was talking about how I wanted to get Jack Hughes or Capo Caco. Well, now my hope is turned, and I'm like, well, if we keep this play up, we'll make the playoffs. And not just us, it's the teams around us in wildcard standings that are helping us maintain our position. Edmonton is ahead of us. They have won 3 of their last 11. We've already said Anaheim has lost 12 straight. Vancouver has won 2 of their last 6. Minnesota has won 2 of their last 5. Dallas has won just 1 of their last 4, and that one win came against us. And Colorado last night jumped Dallas for the third divisional spot in the Central Division, and they have won just 3 of their last 12. So what do you think about the teams around us and how they're set up versus how we are right now?
Well, the Blues actually have games in hand, I think, on all of them.
All of them except Minnesota, I think. Or actually, they might have 1 game in hand on Minnesota.
Yeah, because the scheduling at the beginning of the season was really weird. There were a lot of 4-day gaps between games.
There were several, and I know since that was the case now for the second half, like we've seen before, the Blues are going to have a quick schedule, a lot on the road for the second half, which is okay because we're actually better on the road this season.
Yeah, they've played really well on the road.
We have. So at the start of the season, they spread out 41 games from October until, I think, January, the first week of January. And now from the rest of January to the first week of April, we have to play another 41 games, which is, I'm not sure it's the same amount of time. I don't have it off the top of my head. But I know that's going to be tough for the Blues. But it might be a way for the Blues to gel together and become one team, which is what we need to see if they want to go on a playoff run. With the way Binnington's playing, we could ride that hot hand, or we could, since Allen played really well against Washington, we could go back and forth.
It just depends on who's playing well. That's what I want to see.
I agree. I'd like to see maybe Binnington get some starts, or since he lost last night, maybe give Allen Boston and Ottawa maybe. Allen both of those.
Well, depending on how well he does against Boston, I think if it's a blowout, then you got to go back to Binnington.
Yeah. We're on the road until Ottawa, then we're at home, and then we're on the road again for I think 2 weeks. Or no, we're on the road until February 12th, I believe.
The
February
10th.
9th. Against Nashville, because we have that back-to-back.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to skip ahead into our previewing of the next Blues games, and I'm going to go all the way into the first full week of February when we play Florida, Tampa Bay, Nashville. It's going to be like our week that we had when Mike Yeo got fired. Mm-hmm. Start off against a somewhat easy team and then immediately get pummeled into the ground. That's going to be a tough week for Craig Berube and the Blues because we got Florida on the 5th in Florida, Tampa Bay on the 7th in Tampa Bay. Then we come home the 9th and play Nashville and have a true home and home against Nashville with the away game on the 10th. That's a Saturday and Sunday. That's going to be a great weekend. If I could get tickets to both of those games, I would definitely be going.
Yeah, I'd like to go to that Nashville game.
Me too. Let's get into the upcoming Blues games, Colin. So we have a game on the 17th at Boston, and we have a game on the 19th at home against Ottawa. Would you like to see... We've already talked about this, but would you prefer to see Allen on Boston and then Binnington against Ottawa, or would you want to see Binnington against the tough team in Boston and Allen against the easy team in Ottawa? Well, somewhat easy, I guess. Easier than Boston.
Yeah. I think I'd like to see Allen against the Bruins just because of how well he played against the Capitals.
I agree.
The scoring power of the Bruins doesn't quite match that of Washington, but they're near the top of the standings, and I think that a win like that would really give Allen the confidence. And I think going into these 2 games, I would probably say, if I were the coach, I would say Allen's going to start Boston, Binnington's going to start Ottawa. That way, they just know that's how it's going to be, and it isn't based on performance.
Yeah, and it's not like, Allen, if you do well, you're getting Ottawa too, and then he might be thinking it in his head, and then let an easy one in against Boston and lose it.
Yeah.
But I would say that, and then if Boston or Allen does good against Boston, would you like to see him start against Ottawa and then give the Kings Binnington on the 21st?
Yeah, if he has a good game, then he has a good game, and want to see what else he can do against the Senators.
Yeah. After the 23rd, we play Anaheim, and then after that, I believe we go on the break.
All-Star break, yeah.
All-Star. Oh, yeah, that's the All-Star break. I was thinking it was the bye week.
Well, it might be both. I'm not sure. 23rd to the 2nd.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah.
The All-Star game's not until like the 29th.
Oh, it isn't?
I'm not sure. Hang on. I could be wrong about that.
I think it's the 26th because Wednesday 23rd. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. All right, we're going to get into a new segment since it's only our second episode. What would Colin like to see from the Blues down the stretch? Colin, what would you like to see from them?
The biggest thing is consistency, which guys like O'Reilly and Perron and Binnington have shown so far. Tarasenko's heating up. I'd like to see more goals from him for sure.
Yeah, I'd like to start seeing goals from Schwartz. He's snake bitten really bad.
Yeah, I've got their shooting percentages pulled up, and they're very low. Tarasenko's 9.4%, and Schwartz is 3.4%. He's only got 3 goals on the year.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
I didn't either. I know he's been out, but whenever Schwartz is on the ice, I can tell that he's struggling because the way he's shooting the puck, he's just firing it from anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And usually that's what you have to do when you're in a funk like he's in. But I would just like to start seeing Schwartz get into those high percentage areas rather than shooting it from way outside like he's doing it over by the boards. I mean, he's had some good shots, and last night I saw a lot of good shots from him. But he's just shooting it right at the chest, I guess looking for a deflection, which that wouldn't be his goal, but it might heat him up. But
yeah. Shot quality could definitely improve his percentage.
Yeah.
I'd like to see more offense from Chin, who's having a down year compared to last year.
Yeah.
He's still 4th on the team in points, but the team hasn't been very good, so that's probably why he's done well by comparison. I'd like to see more offense from Colin Perron.
I would as well.
Because he's got that crazy hard shot, and we've been talking about it the last 3 years, and it's never really materialized into what fans have wanted it to.
No, it hasn't, and what the team has wanted it to.
Yeah, I think he needs to shoot more.
I agree.
He does have 104 shots, which is good for 3rd on the team, but I still think that he could do more. Yeah.
So in my eyes, the problem with Parayko is that he gets the puck in the offensive zone, and I saw this last night when we were on the power plays. Instead of just firing it, he's kind of like looking for options, and then he's running out of time and doesn't have time to fire it. He's just wristing it at the group of players in front of the net looking for a tip, and usually it gets blocked. Last night I saw it a lot. I've been seeing it a couple times. I know with Mike Yeo, when he first became our coach, Parayko was having trouble in the defensive end with waiting a while instead of just skating out of the zone or getting a pass to his partner. He was wasting a little too much time, and it would force turnovers.
Yeah, he needs more confidence on the puck.
Yes, he does. He could look at a guy like Alex Pietrangelo. When he gets it, he usually knows what he's going to do with it. If he's trying for a one-timer, he gets it off quick. Which, I mean, there are 2 different defensemen. They're both right-handed, but one's got a rocket shot and one's better with the wrist shots.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. I would also like to see the team stay healthy. We got 3 guys on IR right now, Thomas, Steen, and Bozak, who are all pretty important parts of the top 6. Steen's been the scapegoat this year, having a bit of a down year, but I think that maybe if he can get back and get healthy, he can find his game just as everyone else seems to right now.
Yeah. From the goalies, what would you like to see from them down the stretch, and who would you like to see get more starts?
I just want to see whoever's hot getting the starts. I think that that's probably the best way to get into a playoff spot is to ride the hot goalie, and I think that it should really go on like a week-to-week basis of who's getting the starts, share a lot of time.
I agree. There are about 40 or 39 games left in the season. I think in my eyes, I know I'm not Colin, this isn't my segment, but I think I'd like to see Allen, if he's doing hot, get a lot of the starts, like a lot.
Yeah.
But then he might be wore out by the come playoff time. I just would like to see him get hot and heat up and stay hot into the playoffs, you know what I'm saying? Because we can't just ride Jordan Binnington and then get to the playoffs and like Washington did last year, starting Philip Grubauer, how he was hot down the stretch, lost the 2 games, and then it was Holtby's playoff run to the Cup. Yeah. I think I'd like to see Allen all the way down and into the playoffs.
Yeah, it would be good for his confidence really in his career, because this has been a pivotal year for his career.
It really has.
He's finally the starter and then kind of collapses, and now we're seeing Binnington kind of shadow him and move into his role.
Could you see the Blues trading Allen?
Last week I would have said yes if anyone would take the contract. I'm not sure. He's got 3 years left on his contract.
I'm pretty sure. Let me pull it up real fast.
Yeah, but at this point I don't think so, because he's played well in the limited time he's gotten, and Binnington has played well when he's been on the ice. So I think that I don't see Allen moving.
Yeah, Allen does have 3 years left at 4.35 on the cap hit. I think he only gets traded at the NHL entry draft. I don't think he'd get traded during the season, and goalies usually don't. But I think the only way he gets traded is if Binnington does really, really good, and they think that Binnington can come back and start next year.
Yeah, and if Allen can be moved.
Yeah, well, we saw from Jeremy Rutherford in his recent subscriber Q&A that Philadelphia may have interest in Allen.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that. I've seen a little bit of it on Reddit where people have made reference to it, but kind of in a joking manner.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that really makes sense. He would be like the 8th goalie to start for the Flyers this year.
Yeah.
Which would be crazy. And I don't really know that he's the solution to the Flyers' problems. And I don't know, the fit that was mentioned for the Blues was Wayne Simmons, but I don't really know if that would work.
Yeah, I'd actually like to see Ivan Provorov from Philadelphia over Wayne Simmons, which I know Simmons is a good scorer, but I think we need defense before forwards, and if we're trading Allen, then we need a goalie. So,
yeah, which former Blue Brian Elliott is there.
Yeah, last time I checked, he led the Philadelphia Flyers in wins with 6, and he's been out since mid-November.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I would also like to see further consistency from the penalty killers like Sundqvist and Barbashev. They keep up their games. That they've been great recently.
Yeah.
And Jay Bouwmeester seems to finally be coming around a bit after his injury was... It's
about time.
Yeah, it was bothering him. And I'd like to see him keep his game up.
Yeah. What about the power play?
I want to see Kyrou get some power play time.
I really do too. I know Robert Thomas was having some power play time.
Yeah, and wasn't his goal against Montreal on the power play?
It was.
Yeah, and I want to see the young guys on the power play, because I think that's where their skill can really shine. And Thomas was finally getting that opportunity.
Yeah, he really was. And he's finally starting to get more ice time. I think he was up on the 3rd or 2nd line that game. And I know he was playing really well with the power play unit that we had out at the time. And then I guess he took a fall, hit the boards awkwardly.
Yeah.
I know I would like to see Kyrou get more ice time even on the power play. And I would like to see McEachran get some more ice time than what he's getting. All right, I got a question for you.
Okay.
So, with the way the Blues have played over the last 6 for 1-on-1, do you still think they may trade, or not trade, but sell on Alex Pietrangelo and see what we can get?
I don't think Pietrangelo is going anywhere this season.
I don't either.
And
unless we're getting something huge from Toronto, I don't think he's going anywhere.
Yeah, if the season ends poorly, I can see maybe a deal at the draft, but I don't think Pietrangelo gets moved this season. I do think there's a possibility Shin could be moved during the season, because we've seen at the last couple deadlines, of course he's not an expiring UFA like Stasny and Shattenkirk were, but the Blues did move away from players when they were in the playoff hunt.
Yeah. And ultimately, that trade last year, might have cost the Blues the season, which they weren't doing good until the trade. But imagine if we traded someone else away and kept Stastny, then we have a huge depth at center, like we do this year. But obviously, it wouldn't be as good. But maybe we win a few more faceoffs and win that faceoff that allowed Duncan Keith to score that goal.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think last year's team had what it takes to make the playoffs, and I think even with Stastny, if they made the playoffs, they would have been first round exit.
Oh, for sure, because we would have been up against Nashville, and we saw how they played against Colorado, which it did go to 6 games, but I don't even think we would have made it that far.
Yeah.
And we saw in the last game of the year, Colorado had some fight. So, Off to other NHL news. We're about to close it down. We got one more segment after this if we have enough time. I'm not sure if we will. Paul Byron will have a hearing today for charging against Florida's Mackenzie Weegar, which didn't look like a charge to me. I mean, he was going quick and then slid basically. And the thing I saw, he got an elbow up into the upper area of Weegar's body, and Weegar actually went down with an injury, but I think remained in the game. I'm not for sure. I didn't get to see the game. But anyways, he's going to have a hearing. Do you think it'll be a suspension?
I don't know that it'll be a suspension. I think he'll at least get a fine, though.
Oh, yeah, he'll get probably the largest fine that he can get in the CBA. I don't know. I could see 2 games.
Yeah, it did look like he left his feet.
It really did.
It was, I think it was unintentional, but that doesn't really matter.
No. Well, I'm going to compare it to this, but it is not this at all. In the 2014 playoffs, Seabrook got 2 games for his hit on Backes when he
I think
left
it was
his
2
feet.
games, yeah.
Yeah, and Backes was out 3 games with a concussion. So I could see it being maybe 2 games, because I don't think Byron's got any past history.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, but I could see 2 games, especially with what happened with Mike Matheson getting suspended 2 games for his hit on Elias Pettersson towards the end of October. Which that was a whole different thing, but he still got 2 games for it, and it looked like a hockey play. It looked like he kind of threw him to the ice, but after I watched it so many times, it kind of to me looked like a sort of a hockey play.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there was no way this Paul Byron hit was a hockey play at all. He might not have been targeting the head, but he 100% got it. So hits to the head haven't been hockey plays since the mid '90s. Well, since before 2005, really. Speaking of Elias Pettersson. Do you think the injuries that he's had this season will ruin his Calder Trophy season?
I was looking at the stats, and there are reports that he could come back this week. He's likely to come back this week, and I don't think that as long as he stays healthy past this, then I think he'll be fine because he's got a 16-point lead in rookie scoring.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I actually saw I think I saw a tweet about it. I was like, I don't think it will. Who's in second?
White in Ottawa.
Oh, Colin White?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I don't think he's got good enough line mates, the line that he's on. He might be on the line with Mark Stone, but I'm not sure if he is. And that would be the only way that I could see Colin White taking the lead. But then when Pettersson comes back, I think Pettersson will definitely blow him out of the water.
Yeah, Pettersson's over a point per game right now.
Yeah.
He's got 42 points in 38 games.
If Pettersson doesn't win it because of his injuries, something's wrong with the hockey writers.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine at this point, unless he comes back a couple games and gets hurt again for the rest of the season. Then.
Yeah, which, I mean, he's had a concussion. Another concussion could put him out for the season, but I don't see him being out for the remainder of the season unless he blows out a knee or something, or I don't know, does something terrible.
An interesting stat on Pettersson is in 38 games he has 7 game-winning goals.
Oh wow! How does that stack up along the entire league total?
I don't know. I've only got rookie stats pulled up right now.
I'll pull that up real fast. It's definitely got to be below Connor McDavid, the things that he's done.
Yeah, but Vancouver hasn't really won that many games, so
they have not.
It's really impressive that he has 7 game-winning goals.
Oh. Wow, he is tied for the lead. Elias Pettersson, Jeff Skinner, Artemi Panarin, Gabriel Landeskog, and Connor McDavid. They're all tied with 7.
Wow. Vancouver has 21 wins. And
he's got a third of their wins, basically.
Yeah, and I don't know how how many they've won since he's been hurt, but he's missed 9 games.
I can pull that up real fast if you want me to.
So I wonder what the percentage of games they've won while he's in the lineup that he scored the game-winning goal are.
Yeah. So I know they kind of had a skid when he missed, I think, 14 with a concussion, or not 14. He missed like 4 games with a concussion, and they were falling then too. And then he came back and they went on another tear. And he's one of the reasons why they destroyed us 6-1 that one time earlier this year.
Yeah, he had 5 points in
December
that game,
9th.
right?
Yeah. Really helped out my fantasy team.
Pettersson has scored the game-winning goal in 41% of Vancouver wins that he's played in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So I think he got his concussion against Florida, which was on the 13th because it was in Florida. They won the next game, lost against Winnipeg, won against Boston, lost against Washington. I'm not sure if he was back for that game yet. Then they won against Vegas and then had 2 more losses. And if he came back against Minnesota because I think he had like 2 goals or something. They had a 3-game winning streak, lost in a shootout, then won again, and then went on an 8-game losing streak. If he wasn't so young and getting hurt, he could probably be up there for the MVP.
Yeah.
Because he's pretty valuable to his team. And the way that they played at the start of the season, it was basically him carrying them on his shoulders.
Yeah, at the same time, though, his 42 points are nothing compared to the 75
Nikita
Kucherov has.
Yeah. No. But, I mean, for the way his team is, and I know MVP's for a good player on a good team, but Pettersson's a really, really good player on a not-so-good team. Kind of like Connor McDavid.
Yeah, he's a big reason that they're still in the playoff hunt right now.
Yeah, he really is. So that's pretty much going to do it with that one. Would you like to get into the divisional prediction that we had earlier this season?
Sure.
All right, so we're only going to do one division per episode. So I don't know when we'll do the next one because Colin's got to go back to college. Are you going back? Like, what day are you going back since we're supposed to get snow?
I don't know. The snowstorm is messing up my plans.
Is it really? I know. Did you see Columbia? Mizzou got 22 inches this past weekend.
Wow. I didn't know it was that much. I know they got a lot.
All right. So to the division, which Eastern Conference division would you like to do first?
You pick.
Let us do, the Metropolitan Division. So right now, the Metropolitan Division is as follows. Columbus, Washington, New York, Pittsburgh, Carolina, the Rangers. The first New York is the Islanders. Rangers, Devils, Flyers with 40, which is tied for second worst in the league. So if you go back to your predictions before the season started, where would you have slotted all these teams at?
Washington is the only team I predicted correctly in a divisional spot.
Me too.
Because I thought Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, I was very wrong on the Flyers, would be in those other 2 spots. I did think Columbus and New York I thought Columbus was a wild card team and New York would be the last team that missed the playoffs. So I was kind of close. not too great, but Trotz has really turned the Islanders around, and I'm impressed that he's made up for the loss of Tavares.
Yeah. Imagine where that team would be with Tavares.
Yeah, for real, because Trotz is just an amazing coach. He got some subpar Nashville teams into the playoffs several years, and finally won the Capitals a cup.
Yeah, and okay, would you think the Capitals would have won that cup last year without Barry Trotz?
It's hard to say because they're very talented, so I think that Trotz may have been the missing piece, though, because we've seen that team lose in the playoffs many times.
Yeah, but he was the coach with them, but they also didn't have the players they had at the time.
Yeah, that's true.
So my prediction for that Metropolitan Division was I had Columbus, Washington, Pittsburgh, and then from there I had I had Philadelphia, then Carolina, the Devils, Rangers, then Islanders. I did not think the Islanders are the biggest surprise to me. Did not think they'd be that high. I figured they'd be battling for the first overall pick.
Yeah. Well, the loss of Tavares was just huge for that team because they've got Anders Lee.
Yeah.
And
he's their captain, isn't he?
Yeah.
I'm surprised they were that quick to name a captain.
Yeah, I was too, but I guess they just really wanted to move on from the Tavares debacle.
Yeah, and they're about to, if they make the playoffs and win a round, they're just as successful with Tavares as they are without him.
Yeah.
So, because all they did was win one playoff round with Tavares. So, but imagine what the Maple Leafs will do with him.
Yeah, well, it looks like we're seeing it now.
They're on a skid as of late, and Boston's caught up to them. But I mean, really, they're in a playoff spot, and so I'm gonna switch to the Atlantic real quick. Boston and Toronto. What if they play again and Boston eliminates Toronto in 7? That would be heartbreaking for Maple Leafs fans with the team that they have, and I know they'll have the same team for basically the end of time.
Yeah.
But not the same forwards.
Yeah.
Really. But what if they never beat Boston the entire time they have John Tavares? Like in the playoffs.
I think it would be hilarious.
I would too. Everyone in Canada would be like just crapping on the Maple Leafs.
I think everyone in the U.S. too. I think with the recent resurgence of the Leafs, their fans' online presence has started to get under the skin of every other fan base. And I think if there's one thing we can all agree on, it's that Leafs fans are a little bit obnoxious.
They really are. But so who is the most obnoxious that you would say in the entire fan base of every team? Leafs? I'd say Bruins.
Well, online I think it's Leafs.
Yeah.
At the games, I would say Predators are up there.
Yeah. So, okay, I was at the game when we won 6-2 against the Predators, and it was Berube's first win. So, on Twitter, this Nashville fan page was tweeting how, wow, the Blues fans are so bad. We heard them yelling at other Nashville fans. We even saw a fight. And I was like, whatever. I was at that game. There was nothing there. And everyone in their replies were saying, that is a lie. You guys are the fans that yell, you suck. How are we worse than you guys? It was just crazy. Well, I think that's going to do it, Colin. Like I said, I have a place to be at 2, and I have to go get ready for that. It's been fun for episode 2, and I'll probably do episode 3 next week with my brother since you'll be in Columbia. But whenever you come down for a weekend, just hit me up and we can set up a podcast for that day, all right?
I will.
All right, be sure to check this one out on YouTube if you haven't already. Episode 1 is also on YouTube. Episode 3 will be on YouTube, and I'll tweet that one out. So you guys have a good one.
Follow Jared on Twitter. The link is in the description.
This has been Center Ice Chats presented by TSJ 101 Sports, where sports meets common sense.